Mira Rubin here with you on Enlightened World Network. And we got a late start today. I apologize for that, but it's always a privilege to be with you. So thank you so much for being here. Today's topic is the question why, and really looking at whether it serves us and how we use it in our lives. So before we get started, let's take a minute to get present. Let's take a deep breath in through your nose and hold it. And imagine clean, crisp oxygen just flooding your lungs and flowing into your bloodstream, nourishing all your cells and your organs and bringing vital life energy into your entire body. And as you exhale, exhale any stress, any tension. And now let's just take another deep breath in through your nose and hold it. And this time, imagine brilliant, bright light and energy just electrifying your molecules and your electrons and energizing and just electrifying you and bringing all kinds of life energy and vitality and expanding you out into the world beyond. And as you exhale, exhale any stress and tension. And last, let's just gently press our palms together, softly rub our hands against one another to feel that tickling and tingling against your palms. And now let's just bring ourselves present right here, right now. So welcome, 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 Rosalind. Great to have you here. So today we're going to be looking at the question why, and particularly in the context of why are we here? Because that's something that so many of us are plagued by that question. And what I was engaged in a conversation with a long running conversation with a friend over the weekend about this question why. And we create elaborate stories of why. Our religious traditions and our spiritual schools of thought and philosophy. This has been the question that has kind of plagued humanity for as long as our history can stretch, I would think. And I wonder how useful a question it is. We each create our own individual whys, so maybe why is to spread love, maybe why is to spread light. The thing that I'm thinking, however, is that whatever our whys, our answers to the question why, we often use them because we use them like a lifeline. They act as sort of a lifeline. And because they're a lifeline, we often cling to them as if they're truth. And the whys become the foundation for beliefs, and the beliefs become foundation for behavior. And then we argue with each other about our beliefs. And what I noticed is that I used to be pretty consumed with this question of why. What are we here for? What's the purpose of this? Because sometimes it just feels so overwhelmingly crazy. Let's just say overwhelmingly crazy sometimes. So as I think about it, what I realize is that as I have found more of a unity within myself, as I have evolved more into that, why becomes a less important question, or has become a less important question for me. And I noticed too that the beliefs that I have, the answers to why, I realize or I'm able to put them in the context of story. And not necessarily as fact. And so therefore I'm able to interact with them more as a hypothesis. And as I'm able to loosen the grip on believing that these things are true with heart and soul, then I'm able to respond more authentically, more from a place of presence in my interaction with others. So I'm wondering if this makes any sense to you, but if I believe that um, well, if I believe that I am destroying the planet with pretty much every action that I take, um, I'm going to take certain actions maybe to lessen my impact, right? Um, maybe that's just a story. I mean, it is a story that I've kind of bought into, that our actions make a difference, and so therefore I take certain actions to mitigate what like the answers to the why. So um, for instance, my understanding is that one of the answers to why uh, where we have so much CO2 emissions is through food waste, supposedly. And I tend to believe this, that food waste is like the third highest contributor to CO2 emissions in the world. And the reasoning behind that is that when we put food waste into our trash, it goes into the landfill, it becomes compressed, and when it's in an anaerobic environment, it creates methane, which is way more toxic than CO2, and on and on and on, right? So this is a belief that I hold. It's an answer to a why, why the pollution that we have in the world, why the CO2 increase, etc. And so as a result of that, I take certain action, and I will I will tend to um, get myself into debates around this situation because I believe the answer to the why that I'm aware of. Why pollution. The thing that I I'm not saying that that's not true. Those are hypotheses that I'm working with as truth for now. And those things are prompting action that I believe is positive action. However, however, if I if I use those ideas and those answers to create separation between myself and others, perhaps that's a misuse of my my awareness. Maybe there's a way instead to to find bridges. I see this in religious arguments. I see this in governmental or political arguments where we believe our explanations about things, and then spend time and energy creating opposition with one another, on the basis of these stories that we've created for ourselves, and and believing that certain stories are true. So this whole thing came about in conversation about the nature of the universe and talking about conspiracy theories, where there are many who believe that there is I guess, some kind of master cabal that is orchestrating all of the craziness on the planet. And and I have to say, this is like a bigger why. This is like, why is all this happening? And if I can, um, believe that there is a controlling organization, then I can blame them for the issues that are happening in the world. And you may believe that there is a controlling cabal. The thing is that when we find the answers that we create to the question of why, what we can look at and what we, I think, are beholden to look at is this line of questioning life affirming? Is, like, if I believe that there is a unified cabal that's controlling the world, then am I using that belief in a way that is empowering me or disempowering me? And in this conversation that I had over the weekend, it was certainly a belief that was disempowering to this other person. And it gave them a feeling of impotence and victimhood. And to me, our beliefs are stories. Our beliefs are tools that we can use to find greater connection and peace. Good morning, Rob, and welcome. Great to have you here. We can use our beliefs and these stories to create a greater sense of vitality and engagement in life and connection with the world and with others, or we can use our beliefs to create divisiveness. And maybe we can hold our beliefs less as truth. It's scary to do that, perhaps, because we really want to know. We want to be right. But if we could hold our beliefs as less fact and more hypothesis, we can then continuously reevaluate without having to have our identity tied in with what these beliefs might be, tied in with dogma. And there are things I believe very strongly, and I get to remember to hold them more loosely, as recognizing that these are the stories that I'm living within. And the stories that we live within, that are often prompted by answers that we come up with to the question of why, the stories that we live within can serve us in our understanding and sort of quelling the terror of the fear of the unknown, right? So we pretend to know, or we allow ourselves to believe that we know. However, that knowing keeps us bound. That and I realize that this is, first of all, it's a difficult thing to talk about, as you can hear me scrambling around for the right words. But in not knowing, what's available to us is unbounded possibility and opportunity that may be beyond our current imaginings. And the knowing keeps us from being able to access these broader possibilities. So Rosalind says the result or answer from asking the question why will be based on an individual's beliefs. Well, I think the result or answer from asking the question why will form the foundation of a person's beliefs. Okay, so I come up with an answer to why, and then I believe that. And as I believe that answer to why, then I can use that belief to validate all kinds of behaviors that may or may not be justified. So then Rosalind says, if that's the case, are we asking questions to reaffirm our beliefs? If so, one can be more aware when we frame the question and use it as a tool. Absolutely, 100%. Very, very wonderful contribution here, Rosalind. So thank you. So we can be asking why to reinforce our beliefs or to form beliefs. And the thing here about beliefs is that they are all constructs, beliefs and identity. And this is getting in some hairy territory, and it's sort of, this is being in the question rather than the answer. Okay, so beliefs and identities also are constructs. They are not, they don't exist without our conceptualization. They're functions of our inner terrain. And so you might argue that, for instance, here's a question, a why do things fall when we throw them in the air? Why do they fall? So the answer is gravity, right? And science has been exploring what is the nature of gravity, and there's all kinds of controversy about it, right? But if I believe in the answer that things fall because of gravity, I could be arguing to the ends of the earth with you if you are challenging my concept of gravity, right? If I believe in certain tenets of religion, like that's how it is, then if I believe that, I can be brutalizing somebody else, or I can be arguing with somebody else based on those beliefs because I am believing that they are truth, rather than holding them as a hypothesis. Good afternoon, Pat. Wonderful to have you here. We're talking about the question why, and then what it generates. I mean, there are lots of wonderful answers and explorations and revelations that can come from the question why. The thing that I'm talking about really is what is the result of that question why, of the answers that we generate, and what do we do with them, and how closely do we hold them? So if we are on a path of enlightenment, and this is just my own thought experiment, so you can choose to try it out for yourself or not, and see where it opens into. So why is a request for a knowing, right? Why is a question that comes from wanting to know, from wanting to understand, from wanting to make sense of something, from wanting to, in some respect, protect and preserve us from the fear and uncertainty of not knowing. Right? So we come up with all kinds of answers and explanations for how the world works, and that allays the fear of being in the unknown. However, if we believe, and this is again a belief, right? If we believe that we are spirit present in physical form, for example, um, then there is perhaps an unboundedness to that spirit that we are binding into the framework or the matrix of our beliefs and our identities. And as we connect more to the experience of spirit rather than the definition of it, what happens is that our identities and our beliefs fall away as these constructs, and we have access to an unbounded field of information and experience. Does this make any sense? I don't, it's, again, we're playing in the realm of belief and entertaining ideas as possibility. The intention here is to hold with a looser hand, not as fact, or truth necessarily. I mean, not as truth, but as a story. And if we are able to entertain life as the stories that we create, we have more capacity to change the story and to create a new one. And if we are creators, if anything, we are creators of stories. And then we act as if those stories are true. And when we engage with those stories as truth, it obscures our capacity to perceive beyond the boundaries of that story. Is any of this making sense? Because I kind of feel like I'm going around and around to sort of try and find the core of this to be able to speak it succinctly. But Robin says, when one speaks why, for myself, it's for knowledge, to assist in direction of one's journey from the information gathered. Right. So why is a question that is begging for an answer, that is giving us a sense of knowledge, or a sense of knowing, right? And the sense of knowing, what does that do? It assists in direction, potentially. It also, so here in any given moment, we have unlimited possibility for choice. Okay, let's say we have unlimited possibility for choice. As soon as I choose this, what's happening is I am, of necessity, eliminating all these other possibilities, right? So I'm not saying don't choose, and I'm not saying don't ask the question and come up with answers. What I am saying is, what if instead of coming up with those answers as the truth, emphatically, the truth, come up with those answers and play with them, hold them loosely, and allow yourself to explore them as a, direction, or as a guidepost, to explore them without attaching to them. So Jolene says, it's a tough topic. You're speaking what's on my heart. This has been coming up in my life constantly right now. You are guiding me in my why. Well, Jolene, I am very heartened to hear that I'm not the only one wrestling with this notion of why. Irma says, to me is a fine line, since there are some whys that are truth, like gravity. I can ask why as UCB as I can, it would not change. I will not gravitate ever. Oh, levitate. Well, see, I believe we can levitate. Now, I haven't figured it out yet, but there are, and maybe this makes me crazy, but there are people in history who have, I can ask why, much as I can, it would not change. I will not gravitate or levitate ever. Well, it's on my bucket list to levitate, I have to say, because there are many recordings in history that have people documenting or speaking about observing or witnessing levitation. And so the thing about gravity is, for most of us who believe in gravity, if we're going to jump off a cliff, the chances are that we're going to splatter at the bottom for sure. But um, I think that there is a place of transcendence of these beliefs that opens up new vistas to us. And that's not to say, please don't go testing gravity by jumping off a cliff. Please don't do that. But I believe that there's a level of mastery of of belief and presence in this world that enables us to do things or to access information and possibility that is beyond what we as human beings typically agree to be possible in reality. And in fact, that's really kind of my life quest. I mean, we know of stories of Jesus walking on water. Well, isn't that a form of levitation? Didn't he somehow defy gravity to be able to walk on water? If you believe that's true, that he did that. um uh, so we it's a rabbit hole. It's a rabbit hole for sure, for sure, for sure. But my inclination is to imagine that if I am able to release myself from the emphatic belief in all of these things, in that we collectively agree on, if I'm able to release myself from that truly, that there is a whole new world of capability and capacity and experience that is unbounded, that is available to us. So Rosalind says, the day Costco sells hoverboards, I'll probably put one in my cart. Well, you know what, Rosalind, I'm right there with you. And Irma says, I get that. I limit myself since I can judge only from what I know till today. Exactly. And so what I'm saying is, I know it can be scary to let go of what we know, but I have to say that the longer I've been on the planet, the less I'm knowing, the less I know, and there's more freedom in that not knowing. Jolene says, I put a lot of weight on my guidance I get in meditation. I find myself questioning my answers I find in meditation when I listen to people. I love putting their belief from their experiences and understanding. It's a trying time to ask why and focus on your truth in this story, in this life right now. um the struggle is real. So Jolene, you had me up until the struggle is real, because the struggle's only real if you make it real, right? The struggle is only real if we say so, because we're creating the struggle. So when you say I put a lot of weight on my guidance I get in meditation, and then you start questioning it when people are challenging it. So this is our big conundrum, right? Because I believe that there is a deep wisdom in connecting to the knowledge of our heart and soul, and that is often guidance that we receive in meditation. And then the people that we are surrounded by and that we love, in their well-meaning experience and their knowing, project their knowing onto us, and challenge it. So people share their limitations. We share our limitations. And so, Jolene, you say, I'm definitely struggling. So struggling, in my experience, is a result of resistance. And so my guess is that you have your own knowing, and the struggle is coming in. The struggle is between head and heart, typically. And our head can get us into all kinds of trouble. Our head can get us into all kinds of crazy boxes and contradictions and justifications and so situations that are out of alignment with our truest, deepest sense of self. And when we listen to our heart, at least this is in my experience, when we listen to our heart from a place of balance, and I don't mean like our emotional reactivity when I say listen to your heart. What I'm speaking to is that balanced sense of presence that emerges from within, that we can connect to when we quiet ourselves. My experience is that that's where the wisdom is. And when it's a fight between head and heart, the head might win, but it often leads us down a thorny path. So I'm wondering if and it often takes courage to follow your heart, because the people around you might disagree adamantly and make life difficult, perhaps. um, it's a time for us and a call for us to rise to the to the voice of our heart, as far as I'm concerned, and that's where we get the truest guidance. And the heart isn't telling us why. The why might be because my heart said so, right? The heart doesn't necessarily tell us why. It may give us guidance, it may give us direction, but it doesn't necessarily tell us why, because there's a place of faith, kind of, that we get to fall into, a place of trust to attend to the whispers of our heart. And so Robin says each one is responsible for the choice and decision they make. That's where a tribe, a group of like-minded people, can help with life's journey. I agree. And there's also tribe think, right? So, there's the context of what are the beliefs that are pervasive in the tribe. So, I think we get to hold these beliefs and ideas gently, and hold them as hypotheses. And Jolene says, oh, you lost your audio. And then she's back, and I'm glad you're back. And Jolene says, thankful for this tribe. So yeah, I mean, what about this tribe? We are a band of people who are exploring, right? I mean, that's what I see as our unifying energy, is that we are um, hope that we are committed to expansion and awakening. Hello, Julie. Welcome, welcome. We're going over the usual time today. So, I mean, not that there's a time limit, but I usually end up by about 9:30 a.m. This is Eastern time here in US. But this is an engaging conversation. So seeking, yeah. So this is another thing about seeking. It kind of goes with why. And Irma says, I love playing with all of you here. I feel the same way, Irma. This is it's a treat to be able to engage with folks that are asking similar questions, that are exploring what is all this about, which is another kind of way to ask why. And I find that I'm not as concerned with knowing how many levels there are to heaven or consciousness. I'm not as concerned with the mechanics of revelation as I used to be. What I am concerned with more, or what I am attending to more, is finding alignment, finding greater sense of trust for that inner voice, um, finding greater wonder and awe in my experience of the world. And yeah, so I do love playing with you guys, and I am so grateful to you for your contributions here and your engagement, because it makes it so much more fun, to explore these things where we get to hold each other's hands through these sometimes rocky paths, uh, to just sort of reach a greater place of presence. I think that's what we're up to. So anyway, we'll call it a day, I think. I want to say thank you, thank you, thank you again. And I'm Mira Rubin, and this is the Core Connection. And I go live here on the Enlightened World Facebook page, Enlightened World Network Facebook page, every weekday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern. And it is my privilege and pleasure to spend this time with you. And I also invite you to go and check out the other awesome programming on Enlightened World Network. So until next time, I am just so honored to be with you. So lots and lots of love.